All right, Jordan, let's go ahead and get into some more good news for the Tigers. We had some NFL decisions be made since our last episode. Some ones that we had decent ideas that were happening, but they are officially announced now. Antonio Williams, he's back.
Yep.
Blake Miller is back. Still waiting on a decision from DeMonte Capehart, but just talk about those two guys and how pivotal it is for that it will be for the 2025 version of the Clemson Tigers and how big those two pieces are, getting those guys back, convincing them to not declare for the NFL draft, giving them their due in the NIL department. And now we got two big ones back on campus.
Yeah, it's massive, man. I mean, it shores up your offense. So you're bringing back 8 of 11 starters, and the 3 that you lost were guys that were out of eligibility. That like you brought back as much of that group as you possibly could have, and that's a testament to Clemson, the staff, the 110 Society, and what they've done in their retention efforts. And that was something that Dabo wanted to emphasize. Before anything else, before the staff changes, the DC and all of that, his number one priority, and that was what he stated to the media, is that I'm focused on making sure that Clemson retains their guys, and we keep our guys in Clemson, and that's what he did. And they put together 2 really, really strong deals for both Antonio Williams and Blake Miller.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be pretty comfortable. Let's just say that. And they're back. Both were kind of mulling some real NFL draft, decisions, hype, and they were kind of contemplating whether to stay or go. And Clemson did what they needed to do to keep them home, and that's massive. And it's another shot in the arm for what was already going to be an exciting offense. To get your multi-year starter right tackle back, potential top 2 round pick, and then Antonio Williams, your best receiver over the last 3 seasons. It's massive, man. And Antonio Williams is I think he's 10 touchdowns away from the school record, and he had 11 this year.
Yes, got to get him that record next year.
Yeah,
got to get him that record. He deserves it. As good as this year was for him, I expect next year to be even better. Antonio Williams is just that guy. Everybody who listens to the channel knows how I feel about him. He was my impact player coming into the season. I thought he was going to explode onto the scene after being pretty much injured for all of last season. And he delivered in a massive way. And Blake Miller on that offensive line, I mean, that is a huge get for the Tigers. You shore up your right tackle position, your best offensive lineman by far this season, and you keep them from going to the NFL. And as you mentioned, they will both be living comfortably at Clemson, as they should be. So shout out to the 110 Society, shout out to Grant Neff, shout out to the Clemson coaching staff for making these two guys, making it worth their while to come back to Clemson and run it back for another season that could turn into something special for the Tigers. We'll see how it plays out. It's still early. A lot's probably still going to be changing with the roster. But when you bring back as much starters and quality starters that Clemson did this offseason, you got to feel good about the program going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the outlook of this team. I mean, with all the production you have coming back, particularly on offense, it just there is a lot of reasons to be excited. I think there's going to be some high expectations for this team in 2025. Don't want to look too far ahead, but and like you said, there's still some decisions. There's still some roster management things to shake out. Now until the end of spring. So we'll kind of see where things look, but everything is shaping up to be really, really good, especially for the Tigers, especially offensively. And then you mentioned DeMonte Capehart, who we're still waiting on his decision. I think there is a good chance that he may be back. So
I got a good feeling.
I got a good feeling. So I think that's there is a lot of positive momentum, it feels, around the program, and we're going to talk about the DC search. I think that's going to be a punctuation that could potentially be a punctuation point for this window before we get into spring. So gotta feel really good.
Yeah,
right
pretty special start to the offseason for the Tigers. I mean, every player that was eligible to come back that played starter or meaningful snaps for Clemson has come back. The only ones that we have lost are the ones that were just out of eligibility. So, I mean, that speaks volumes for the coaching staff, for the 110 Society, and the NIL, and the work that was done right after the season to retain the roster. And that's going to start becoming something that's probably going to be talked about more and more in college football as we go forward with the transfer portal and basically every player in college football just being on a one-season type deal. Roster retention is going to start being the difference maker in teams that are competing at the highest level and those that are not. Because when you're getting 30 new players a year, it's really tough to have continuity and build anything of substance. I mean, you may pop a year here or a year there, but as far as building a successful long-term program, roster retention is going to be key. And right now, Clemson is one of the best in the business at doing it. So shout out to the coaching staff and the 110 Society and all the people involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you look at the four teams that are left in the college football playoff, Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, all of those teams, they use the portal, but they're phenomenal recruiting. Right. They have competitive NIL, and they do a good job of retaining their best players.
Exactly.
So that's where Clemson needs to be in order to get back to that point. So
we've always said it. We've always said it on here. We're not gonna get in these bidding wars and outbid people. Frankly, Clemson's pockets aren't as deep as a lot of these other places, right? But just like we've stated on this show time and time again, if we can get in the ballpark, everything that attracted recruits to Clemson before NIL will still attract recruits to Clemson now, if you can get into the ballpark when it comes to the money, because then you could sell the rest of your program, and it sells itself. And Dabo's been one of the best at selling Clemson. So we know what he can do on the recruiting trail. We just needed to get in the ballpark when it came to NIL stuff, and I think we're on track to do that. And hopefully we can sustain this momentum for the long term.
100%.